Have you ever gone to bed telling yourself, tomorrow will be different? You set your alarm early, earlier than usual, earlier than you're comfortable with. But when it rings, you don't jump up. You stare at the ceiling. You hesitate. And then, you reach for snooze. When you finally wake up, the day has already started without you. You rush. You feel behind. And somewhere in the back of your mind, that quiet voice shows up again. Why do I keep doing this? If this feels familiar, you're not alone. And before you keep watching, just pause for a second and ask yourself, how many mornings like this have already passed? You've probably heard the advice. Wake up earlier. Be disciplined. Successful people do it. Maybe you've tried. Once, a few times, maybe even for a whole week. And every time, life pulls you back to the same routine. So you make peace with it. You tell yourself a story that feels safe. I'm just not a morning person. I need more sleep. This is just how I am. But what if that story isn't true? What if the difference between where you are and where you want to be isn't talent, isn't luck, isn't even working harder, but how you use the quietest hour of your day? Before messages, before noise, before the world starts asking things from you. If you've ever felt like your life is capable of more than this, stay with me. This is not a theory, and this is not a productivity hack. It's the story of one ordinary man whose life didn't change overnight, but began to change the moment he stopped sleeping through his own future. And before this story ends, you might want to decide what kind of morning you want tomorrow. His name was Thomas. He wasn't famous. He wasn't talented in any special way, and no one was waiting to hear his story. Thomas was 32 years old and worked as a night security guard at a textile warehouse on the edge of town. Every evening at 8, while most people were heading home, he clocked in, and every morning at 6, when the city was just beginning to wake up, Thomas walked out. Tired, quiet, invisible. He lived alone in a small one-room apartment. No decorations, no comfort, a mattress on the floor, a broken fan that barely worked, one light bulb that flickered whenever the power dipped. Nothing dramatic, just enough to remind him that this wasn't the life he imagined. His salary covered the basics, barely, food, rent, and not much else. But what weighed on him wasn't the lack of money. It was the feeling that life was happening somewhere else. Every morning on his walk home, Thomas passed the same streets. He saw families through open windows, sitting down for breakfast, children tying their shoes, men in clean shirts heading to jobs that seemed to go somewhere. And while the rest of the town was starting their day, Thomas was ending his. If you've ever felt like your schedule puts you out of sync with the rest of the world, you already understand him. Thomas had tried to change. He applied for better jobs, but with only a high school education, doors closed quietly. He told himself he would learn new skills, but after working all night, sleep always won. Not because he was lazy, but because he was exhausted. Once a week, his mother would call from the countryside. She never complained. She never demanded anything. She only asked one question. When will your life get better? Thomas always answered the same way. Soon, Mom, I'm working on it. And every time he said it, he knew it wasn't true. Because the truth was harder to admit. He wasn't afraid of work. He was afraid that all this effort was leading nowhere. If this part of the story feels uncomfortably familiar, take a second. You don't need to comment. You don't need to like the video. But just notice how often you've told yourself soon without knowing how. The call came on a cold Tuesday morning in November. Thomas had just finished his shift. His jacket was still on. His keys were already in his hand. His phone rang. It was his sister. Her voice was different, short, tight. "Thomas, you need to come home. Mom collapsed. She's in the hospital." For a moment, everything went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind that makes your chest feel hollow. He didn't think. He didn't ask questions. He took the first bus back to his village. 3 hours, no music, no scrolling, just the sound of the engine and one thought repeating in his head. I should have done better by now. The clinic was small, paint peeling, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. His mother lay in the bed, awake but weak. The doctor explained it simply. Exhaustion, stress, years of pushing through without rest. She needed better food, medicine, time, things they couldn't easily afford. When they were alone, she reached for Thomas's hand. Her grip was light, almost careful. "I don't have much time left," she said quietly. "Please don't waste your life the way I wasted mine." There was no accusation in her voice, only regret. Thomas nodded, but he couldn't speak. After she fell asleep, he stayed there, watching her hands. Hands that had worked fields for decades, hands that never stopped moving, yet never seemed to get anywhere. Something inside him shifted. Not sadness, anger, not at her, at himself. At the years he kept saying soon. At the effort that led nowhere. At the life that kept repeating. He stepped outside the clinic. It was just before dawn. The village was quiet, almost still. A few farmers were already walking toward their fields. Birds began to stir. The air was cold and clear. And standing there in that thin line between night and morning, Thomas made a decision. "No more," he whispered. "I won't live like this anymore." If you've ever had a moment where you realized you can't keep going the same way, this is that moment. And whether you notice it or not, everyone gets one. The question is what you do after. The bus ride back to town felt longer than usual. Thomas sat by the window, watching the landscape slide past without really seeing it. His mother's words were still echoing in his head. "Don't waste your life." At the next stop, someone sat across from him, a man in his 50s. Well-dressed, but not flashy. Calm, rested. He opened a book and began to read. Thomas noticed the time. Just after 6 in the morning. It struck him as strange. Someone who looked like that, successful, unhurried, taking a regular bus at dawn. After a few minutes, Thomas spoke. "Excuse me, can I ask you something?" The man looked up and smiled. "Of course." "Why are you traveling this early?" The man closed his book. "I wake up at 4:30, he said. "I use the quiet hours to think, read, and plan my day before the world gets loud." Thomas hesitated. "But don't you get tired?" "I sleep early," the man replied. 7 hours is enough when they're used well. He studied Thomas for a moment. "You work nights." It wasn't a question. Yes. Security. "And you sleep during the day." Thomas nodded, and the man leaned back slightly. "So you're awake when the world is asleep, and asleep when the world is building." There was no judgment in his voice, just observation. "No wonder you feel stuck." Thomas didn't argue, because for the first time, someone had said it out loud. The man introduced himself as Mr. Chen. I learned this lesson 30 years ago, he continued. The hours between early morning are different. They're quiet, unclaimed, undisturbed. If you ever want to change your life, Mr. Chen said, that's where it begins. If you're still watching right now, this is usually the part where people expect a miracle. But that's not what comes next. What comes next is something far more uncomfortable. Mr. Chen didn't speak right away. He looked out the window as if choosing his words carefully. Most people think change comes from doing more, he said. Working harder, pushing longer. But that's not the real problem. He turned back to Thomas. The problem is that your best hours are being wasted on survival. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small notebook. Imagine your life is a house, he said, drawing a simple square. Right now, you're living in it, but the foundation was never built. You're too busy keeping the lights on to fix what's underneath. He drew a line at the bottom of the page. The early morning, he continued, that's foundation time. Before messages, before demands, before excuses. From 5 to 7 a.m. 2 hours. That's all. Thomas frowned. On a 2 hours doesn't sound like much. Mr. Chen nodded. That's why people ignore it. He wrote numbers slowly, letting Thomas follow along. 14 hours a week, 60 hours a month, 730 hours a year. That's the equivalent of 3 full months of work, Mr. Chen said, every year. Time most people sleep through? Thomas stared at the page. 3 months, not someday, not in theory, every single year. This isn't motivation, Mr. Chen added. It's math. If you're listening to this and your mind is already arguing, that's normal. Most people stop here. But Thomas didn't. He asked the question that actually mattered. What do I do with those 2 hours? Mr. Chen flipped to a clean page in his notebook. This part matters, he said, because most people wake up early and still waste the time. He drew 2 simple boxes. Hour 1, he said, from 5 to 6. This hour is for skills. Not news, not entertainment, not scrolling. Skills that can change your economic reality. He paused. Every business needs accounting. Every company needs spreadsheets, languages, trades, digital skills. Choose one. Not 5, not 10. 1. And commit to it. Then he tapped the second box. Hour 2, he continued, from 6 to 7. This hour is for your body and your mind. 30 minutes to move, walk, stretch, wake your system up. 30 minutes to think. Read, plan, apply what you learned in the first hour. This isn't about becoming perfect, Mr. Chen said. It's about becoming consistent. Thomas listened carefully. This didn't sound exciting. It sounded strict. And there are rules, Mr. Chen added. Rule 1, no negotiation. You wake up at 5 every single day. Weekdays, weekends. Skipping just this once is how the system breaks. Rule 2, protect your sleep. 9 p.m. is not a suggestion. You can't cheat sleep and expect discipline. Rule 3, the first weeks will be miserable. Your body will resist. Your mind will lie to you. Push through. After 21 days, it gets easier. After 90 days, it becomes who you are. Thomas looked up. 90 days, he said quietly. Yes, Mr. Chen replied. Long enough to see the truth. If you're watching this and part of you is already thinking, I could never do that, notice that thought. Don't argue with it, just notice it. And if you're willing, drop a comment below. Not to impress anyone, but to be honest with yourself. What's the one skill you'd build if you had 2 quiet hours every morning? The alarm rang at 5 a.m. Thomas didn't move. His body felt heavy, like it had been filled with sand. Every part of him argued against standing up. You worked all night. You deserve rest. 1 more hour won't matter. He sat on the edge of the mattress, eyes half open, questioning his own decision. For a moment, he almost lay back down. But then his mother's voice slipped into his mind. Not the words, just the tone. Quiet, tired, hopeful. He stood up. The first week was brutal. Mornings blurred together in a haze of fatigue. His eyes burned as he watched free tutorials on his phone. The information barely stuck. His focus drifted. At 6 a.m., he forced himself outside. The streets were empty, cold, unforgiving. Some mornings, his legs felt like they didn't belong to him. He walked anyway. Then he read. Slowly, clumsily, often rereading the same paragraph 3 times. By 7:30, he went back to bed. Not refreshed, just functional enough to survive another night shift. No one noticed. No one praised him. Nothing in his life looked different yet. And that was the hardest part. If you've ever tried to change something and felt worse before you felt better, this is that stage. The part where motivation disappears and only discipline remains. Thomas didn't feel proud. He felt tired. But every morning, he showed up again. Not because it felt good, but because stopping felt worse. It didn't happen all at once. There was no moment where Thomas woke up feeling transformed. But somewhere around the 3rd week, something shifted. One morning, he opened his eyes before the alarm rang. 4:58. He lay there for a second, confused, and then he realized his body had started to adapt. The lessons he watched began to make sense. Not all of them, not perfectly, but enough that he could follow along without rewinding every minute. He started recognizing patterns, simple formulas, basic structures, small things, but real. His morning walks felt different too. The air still cold, the streets still empty. But now, he noticed the sky changing color. The quiet didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt protected. At work, nothing had officially changed, but people began to notice. You look different, one coworker said. Healthier? Thomas didn't explain. He just smiled. Inside, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Momentum. Not confidence, not excitement. Just the sense that his effort was finally moving in one direction. If you're expecting change to announce itself loudly, you might miss it. It usually arrives quietly, as understanding, as clarity, as less resistance than before. Thomas kept waking up at 5, not because it was easy, but because stopping now felt like walking away from something that was finally beginning to grow. By the 3rd month, Thomas wasn't learning anymore. He was applying. At the warehouse, inventory had always been a mess. Numbers written by hand, files scattered. No one really knew what was where. One morning, after another early wake-up, Thomas stayed behind for a few minutes. He opened his laptop. Using what he'd learned, he built a simple spreadsheet. Nothing impressive, no fancy design. Just clean rows, clear categories, accurate counts. When his supervisor walked by, Thomas hesitated, then showed him. The supervisor leaned in. "Did you make this?" "Yes," Thomas said. "When?" "In the mornings." There was a pause. "This actually makes sense," the supervisor said quietly. Word traveled. first to the warehouse manager, then to the owner. On the 87th day since Thomas first woke up at 5, he was called into the office. "We're expanding," the manager said. "We need someone who understands operations and basic bookkeeping." "You do." The offer was simple. Day shift, office role, double his current pay. Thomas didn't celebrate right away. He just sat there trying to understand how something so small, 2 quiet hours each morning, had led to this moment. If this story feels earned and not exaggerated, take a second. You don't have to comment. You don't have to agree. Just notice how rarely real change arrives loudly. Sometimes it comes as a calm invitation to step forward. And if stories like this help you slow down and reflect, you might want to stay around. 1 year later, Thomas still woke up at 5, not because he had to, because he wanted to. His life looked different now. A day job, a steady income, a small apartment with real light. He moved his mother closer to town. Better care, less worry. But those weren't the changes that mattered most. Every morning, before the world asked anything from him, Thomas sat in silence, learning new software, reading books he once thought were not for him, planning his week, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Co-workers noticed. "Why do you still wake up so early?" one of them asked. "You've already made it." Thomas smiled. "Because this," he said, "isn't how I got here. It's how I stay here." Success didn't arrive as a finish line. It became a practice. Quiet, daily, unimpressive from the outside. And it always began the same way. Before sunrise, when no one was watching. If there's one thing Thomas's story shows, it's this. Your life doesn't change when motivation shows up. It changes when you choose to stop postponing yourself. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need permission. You don't need tomorrow to feel different. Just one honest morning. If this story stayed with you, take it with you into the next day. And if you want more stories like this, quiet, grounded, human, you're welcome to stay. The alarm will ring either way. What you do next is still your choice.